Hello, you Chief Steward Officer. Thank you for tuning in to another podcast. Brad, are you excited about this one? I think I'm always starting off with, I'm so excited about this topic, but it's every topic. There's not one. But I guess that's to be, we're not going to come in here and go, well, this one, I hate this topic, but I guess
this is not the best, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
there's been better and there will be better ones. This one's pretty weak. No, I'm always excited. I'm always excited to get together. It's always a good time. We talk about businesses and tips and tricks and try to always put Jesus forefront. So that always excites me. I'm always to have a little more of this time in my life.
Well, hopefully, the other Chief Steward Officers, listening to this are feeling the same way we are. They're excited about it because this one can be a little bit touchy at times. But it's about finances, and it's about the flow business model, and the way that God kind of gave me this thing and how to structure it. But and you can get it. I will probably say this a couple of times. You can go to chiefstewardofficer.com and there's a big download the model for free, which is like a 7 or 8 page PDF, kind of walks you through everything. And it does talk about stewardship. It does talk about God's rightful place as the owner. But the part I really want to get into is a part that entrepreneurs of, whether you're kingdom focused or not, can struggle with, which is the revenue part, the cash flow of a business, and how does that work when you're trying to be a CSO?
So I found that the worst part of any type of CSO's day, or I'd say CSO, but like CEO, president, owner, entrepreneur, they know every aspect of their business to the T and the letter and how to do the work, but they're absolutely terrified when they go to talk to their accountant or their CPA bookkeeper, because it's the one area where they feel like somebody else has a leg up on them. And so it's big voodoo to a lot of people. So adding some simplicity and some rules for living, I'm sure, is always beneficial in this area.
Yeah, and you're right, and that's where if anything, it's the lifeblood of an organization, is that you have positive cash flow, that you have revenue. Even if you're a nonprofit, there's some form of revenue flowing through that company, and that's just another area to be a good steward of. So it shouldn't be big voodoo for it. It shouldn't be something that scares us. It really needs to be something we're keeping our finger on the pulse of, just one more thing. And the way I did this, you talk about simplicity. I understand that some businesses will have some pretty complex business models, but the way we put it together in this flow business model is one that you should at least cover 5 areas. And if you do it this way, what I have found is you can take a lot of the fear and uncertainty and doubt, we call that, the FUD, out of your business, and that you don't get trapped in this sales mindset where I have a business and I'm out there selling, or nonprofits are out there trying to do fundraising, and you're just selling. It feels like everything's going great because you're selling stuff. People are donating to the cause, and money is leaving faster than you're bringing it in, and you just didn't realize it. A lot of people get to the end of the year as a CSO, or I'm sorry, as just any kind of an entrepreneur, and they get to the end of the year and they're dreading tax time because they don't we owe how much in taxes, and why do we owe that much in taxes? They're just not prepared. So we're trying to take some of that out.
Yeah, it's always the worst. And I always hated tax time. I still, even now, I hate tax time. Because it's not, I feel like somebody is out to get me, or it's like, what box did I not check? So it's always a terrible. And then what becomes exceedingly a frustrating place to be is if you've had a great year, getting to the end of the year and you're saying, how can I deliberately try to show that I've lost money so that what can I pay?
Much.
Can I pay rent 3 or 4 months in advance? Can I do all these kind of things? Because the government is sticking their hands in their pockets, and you got to do everything. It's legal. You got to do everything above board, right? But it's a heartbreaking feeling to know that you've had a great year, and it just seems like someone's going to come hit you with a sledge.
Exactly.
As soon as it's over.
Well, we've got something, that's what this model is about. And some of the stuff that I want to make sure we're clear on is neither one of us are financial, tax advised, certified professionals. We're just giving our opinion here. And that what I have and what others should get is a relationship with a trusted, certified public accounting firm. Have someone on your side that you can ask these kinds of questions, because taxes and finances in a business it's just always changing. There's more regulations. It's insane how much new tax laws are and data. It changes all the time. So you need someone that's really watching that and looking out for you as a small business owner, because there's a lot of things that you can do legally, of course, to, like you said, stay above board and do it the correct way. You don't want to get trapped into a situation where you get bad advice and you're cutting corners, and you know that you're doing some stuff that's not quite legal, or maybe at least it's legal but it's unethical, just so you could save a few dollars, because then you're trusting in yourself and you're not trusting God as your source. You want to do everything by the book.
This is the one area, I mean, there's two areas really where even starting a business, doing that, you need a CPA and you need legal advice, just to get everything set up. Don't cut corners on either one of those two. You need these people in your corner. You don't want to just wing this. No. This is too important. And you don't want to just take some family member that you have who knew a thing, who did a what, and then, this is not the area for that type of advice.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And I'd say, especially with like startups that are just getting going, this might be a little easier for them, or a small business with only a couple of employees. But really, every business can do this. And let me just explain those 5 areas real quick. So when your business has revenue coming in, one bucket, if you will, that you're going to be pouring some of that money into is the operating expenses. And that's what people typically, they'll go out and get a business checking account, and they're raising money, or they're selling products and services, and they're invoicing customers. And when they get those deposits, they're putting into their business checking account, which is really their operating expenses. This is where you're going to be paying all of your rent, your salary, any kind of expenses, equipment you need. It's all coming out of this operating expense bucket. So that's bucket number 1, and almost always is going to be the largest percentage of the money, right? But you don't want to put 100% into that checking, because we are consumers by nature. We're going to consume every penny that we get if we put it in there, and that's the only account you have. I encourage people to open up multiple accounts, because savings accounts for businesses are free. And so if you put your revenue into one bucket, you immediately want to transfer some percentage of that money out. So let's just call it, because these percentages can change based on your business, but take, say, 10% of whatever that is and put that into a savings account and call that taxes. So now every month, or however often you're going to do it, you're taking a percentage of the revenue and you're putting it into a bucket specifically for taxes. If you're retail, like in the state we're in, it's 7%. When you charge sales tax to somebody, you're just collecting that on behalf of your state. They're going to come collect that back from you. So you want to make sure you're setting that aside. But if you go above that, like say 10%, now you're saving money. So at the end of the year, when you have a tax bill due, or if you have a tax bill due, you actually have cash in a tax account that you're like, cool, I owe $3,000. It's good that I have $6,000 sitting in a savings account called taxes. That's all it's for, right? So then you get rid of that anxiety and all of that you've built up in the past, because you've been saving for it all year. It's just part of your model. So those are the first two. I'll take a pause there and see if you have any questions on that stuff.
Yeah, no, you have to set aside that money for taxes as you go, because you don't want to get behind on it. Because what happens is, and I don't know if you've been there before, but
I have.
Once you have that big tax bill coming, then you run into the temptation of, well, I don't have it, so I'm gonna basically rob Peter to pay Paul out of your own account. So maybe your withholdings, that you would normally spend for your employee withholdings and whatnot, those get used to pay, and now you're behind. Where do you get this money from? And so it's much easier to do it on the front end.
Yeah, just and exactly right. When you get that revenue coming in, you just create a habit, or you have a bookkeeper, you have somebody's doing this for you. Put $1,000 in my my checking account, and $100 of that is now in my savings account specifically for taxes. And you'll see that account grow. Actually, you'll see these other ones grow as well. And another temptation is, oh man, we want to buy a new piece of equipment, or I need a new computer, and I don't want to go into debt. So I'll just take money out of that tax savings account because it's just cash sitting there, and you're going to go use it thinking, well, that's okay. So I still have 3 months left in the year to make that up. And the truth is that's a dangerous game to play, because you spend all that money, and the things you've been saving for taxes all year, you spend it on other stuff, and you never actually made the time to make that back up. And now you're back in trouble. So yeah, just be disciplined about it. The next bucket that you want to put money in is savings. So your business should have a savings account for emergency fund, like, any kind of cash flow issues you might have, because if clients don't pay on time, or if you had a slow sales month of some kind, but you still had some expenses, just in those really, really good times, make sure you're putting a certain percentage of that revenue in that bucket, and keep it exactly the way you would with your taxes. If you're saving for a big piece of equipment, if you're saving for, just 3 to 6 months of your business expenses, just make sure you're putting money in there. So those first two are kind of standard. Revenue goes here, $1,000, $100 in my tax account, savings account, and $100 in my savings account for, things that we might need in the future, and just let those things grow all year long. It just makes sense. These next two are actually my favorites. One of them is for you as the CSO, and you can do with this money whatever you want, but there should be some percentage outside of your normal paycheck, which is handled in that operating expense bucket, the big one. You're going to pay yourself some sort of salary, or you should try to do that. But in this other one, it's really profit. You're going to put your profit, some percentage in there, and that's a bonus for you, because I see just way too many entrepreneurs. They get to the point they're working themselves crazy. They're going 70, 80 hours a week, and they're doing it for a long time, and they pay everybody. If they have employees, everybody's getting paid except for that person. And that's where you get burnt out. You're like, well, I'm having fun, I'm making an impact, this is good, but I just never seem to have any money that would pay me a little extra. And it doesn't have to be 10% or 20%. It could be whatever you make it, but at least put, say, 1%, and let that account grow and pay it out however often you want. I see people do it monthly or quarterly, but now it's like a bonus for you. And what do you do with that money? Well, anything you want. If you want to take that and reinvest it back in your company, you can. If you want to take that money and pay yourself and go on a trip with your family, you can do that. If you want to give part of it back to your employees or something, if you want to donate it, it's really wherever you as the CSO want to do with it. But if you don't have an account where you're putting money in for you to enjoy, then you will be tempted to use all of your operating expenses, all of the tax money, all of the savings, just to keep your business rolling. But you're not taking anything else for yourself. So I think that's important.
Well, the business should not be a hobby.
Yeah.
So look, I know it's a lot of times a dirty word when people say, why did you start this? Well, I wanted to save the world, or want to do this. I thought we could help. And that's true, right?
Yeah.
It is true, but it's also not a sin to say, I want to make money.
Yeah,
being
absolutely.
in this business, I have the potential to make an unlimited income because I am a business owner. It's not artificially capped, as from other, variable.
Yeah.
So if you're not reaping the benefits or seeing any benefits of that, if you're just always investing in others, again, that's another hard thing to ever catch up on. The burnout comes.
Yeah.
You never see the end, and you don't make it through. You just don't have the motivation to make it through to the point where you actually could make an impact to the kingdom at large, because you just said, this is not worth it, I'll go get a job.
Right. Exactly. And then the purpose that God put you in place for, all of a sudden that's not getting fulfilled anymore. Like he really wanted to do something through you and through this business to go and make a kingdom impact and bless people, bless the world. But because you've structured it in such, because we can do that. I've done it where you structure it in such a way that I'm making sure everybody's paid and our bills are paid and everything else. But I can't afford to, my family needs more than this. Insurance rates just went up, or I need to, pay off, something else in my household, or, the water heater broke, whatever it is, that you never seem to have enough money personally to do the things that, that you want to do. And so sometimes entrepreneurs quit. They just stop the business and they go get a job. And this is one of those things that if you plan for it, and you build that account up, it's just that extra bonus, and the way we're doing this with percentages is that the more revenue you bring in, the more all of these accounts are getting, right? Because it's based on percentages. So the more savings you'll have, the more profit you're going to be able to take as an owner or as a steward. And also taxes, so if you did a bunch of revenue, that tax account's going up as well. But here's the last one. It's purpose. So people want to make an impact, and they start a business and they get rolling, and we don't want to fall into the trap of saying, well, one day when we're successful, well, one day when we hit, this much in sales or whatever, you can make an impact day one and the very first day. And when you go out and make an impact, you're really going to do that with time, talent, or treasure. And so as a CSO of a growing company, when you make the revenue, we'll just use some easy numbers. Let's say $1,000, and that came into that checking account for operating expenses. And then each of those other buckets, the four, let's just say 10%. So you're going to take $100, put in taxes, $100 put in savings, $100 and put that in your profit account for you, and then $100 into this purpose account. And so what is that purpose account used for? Well, it's whatever you've prayed about that God has said, I want to use you, not just to bless your employees and do a good service, no matter what it is, cupcakes, marketing, cutting grass, it could be any kind of business. But that other one is specifically set aside to say, God, what do you want me to do with this money? How would you creatively want me to give this money away, or, buy equipment or buy something for someone in your community? I mean, there's really no limit to what you can do with that purpose bucket money. It's very dependent upon what God's called you to do. That's why you seek him. And I think that's just a critically important one for CSO.
Now we've talked about this one previously, in that we have this bucket of money. We've set aside that, hey, we want to do this something for good.
Yeah.
But that should not give us carte blanche to go out and just willy-nilly say, oh, I want to give to this or that or this or the other thing, because even though it makes us feel good, it may not be what God's intended purpose was.
Exactly.
Right. And I think you brought up the analogy of you could not, if you just went if you worked someplace else, you had an employer and you went and you started giving away paper and desks and pens and staplers and giving away all the company's equipment, you would be fired summarily, because that none of that belongs to you. Same way here, your purpose bucket doesn't really belong to you.
Right.
So you need to consult the owner what to do with that purpose bucket.
Yeah, exactly. And, one creative way, one way that I've used it. So, told you, like I own Flow Business Systems, and with Flow, we've set this up, and that we have a percentage for that. And I call it overflow. So with that money, it's really set aside to help in any way that God wants us to use it. But too many companies, especially if they're services-based companies, will say, well, I want to, give my products or services away for free to like a nonprofit or to a church or somewhere. And I get the heart. I've done it. And what you can do is you can get so busy doing whatever your business does for free for too many people, because there's, believe me, no shortage of need out there. And you do feel good about it and you are helping people, but your business is going to close quickly because you're not making revenue any other way, because you're always giving stuff away for free. So one way to use that purpose money is to say, let's say that I build websites for a living, and then I've got connected to a group that they can't really afford a website. And plus I prayed about it, and God wants me to just build them a website for free. Well, you can take your time and you can dedicate it to making sure that they get that free website and it looks great. And it is free to them, but you're spending your time. You can pay yourself back out of that purpose bucket so that you are not suffering. Your business isn't suffering by doing pro bono work. You can take that money in that bucket, pay yourself, so that at least for your business, it's like you got paid for it. It was just free to whatever group, and that's a creative way to do it.
Yeah, and that's not underhanded or anything, or it's not a cheap way around the horn. Oh yeah, I'm giving to this charity and the charity is me. No, that's not what this is. Right? You're
exactly
proactively saving so that you can do things like this.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So so there's nothing wrong with doing that. You're not cheating the system that way. You're not saying, oh, look at me and it didn't cost you anything. Wrong.
Right.
You are donating this, but
exactly.
you saved ahead of time to be able to do it.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, these as CSOs and as employees of great businesses, we want to go out and build in our community, and it could be anything. I mean, there's so many causes right now that are so worthy that you could give your time, talent, or treasure to. But those are the things you have, and what we end up doing is we give our time and we give our talent, and we're out there doing those things, but we've never considered the treasure part. So I think it's very active and intentional. It's not something that you just want to necessarily grow up a savings account for purpose and just automatically connect that to a monthly donation somewhere. I mean, that's okay, but I think it needs to be a little bit more hands-on than that, a little more interactive. But what happens if we don't plan for it, then we are just simply giving our time and our talent with no way to recoup any of the monetary value of that stuff. And so, God is organized, he's not chaotic. And as CSOs, we need to be the same way. So when you dedicate your business to God and you say, God, you own it, I'm a steward, this model really helps take away any anxiety you have about giving away free services or taking a day off to go serve in the community, because that purpose bucket will see you through. It also, if there's a money crunch at some point, if you need some cash flow, you got a savings bucket there. At the end of the year, you need to pay some taxes. Great. I've got a whole tax, bucket that I've been filling up all year. And then as far as an entrepreneur, as a CSO, you've been out there killing it and getting a paycheck, hopefully. But in addition to that, you've paid yourself a bonus, and it's all planned out. It takes all the stress, all the anxiety around organizing and managing your finances for a business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as we were talking, I was thinking back to the purpose bucket and using that to fund your time and your talents. And I compared that in my mind to the scriptures back in Leviticus, where it's giving us instruction to not take everything from the vineyard, right? Do not clear it straight up, but leave something behind for the stranger, for the poor to come in and glean those fields.
That was the first welfare system, right?
So this is, you're leaving a little bit behind. You're leaving a little something on the table that you can come back and help those glean later. And maybe something else, and I'll get your opinion on it, but I have found that has been beneficial to me. We've all played Monopoly. You get the little community chest card or whatever, and it says, the bank has made an error.
Oh, yeah.
In your favor.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never in my life had a bank made an error in my favor. It's always been the opposite way.
Yeah.
And so what I would suggest is when you have these different buckets set up for taxes or operating expenses or payroll, or these different buckets, I would have those as much as possible distributed among different banks, because the banks will empty out all of your accounts by mistake, and it will take several days to get that back. It takes a push of the button to get it out and several days to get it back. Not that they're doing anything purposely, but mistakes happen.
Right.
And you don't want to have a single point of failure that brings the entire system down. So
Yeah.
if you have savings, and plus if your savings accounts are at a different bank,
Mhm.
whatever than the bank where your operating expenses are, it's just a little check and balance. It's a little extra effort you have to go to take that
That's
income
what I
out,
was going to
little
say.
hedge.
I've heard people say exactly that. It's not so much they're protecting against the bank, is that what they're doing is they're protecting against themselves. That
Mhm.
make it a little bit harder to go about getting that money. There's some savings account. I've heard people go to a different bank that's very small. They have limited access to it.
Mhm.
Their website's terrible, but they can put their money there for free, and
Yeah,
it's hard for them to get to it,
yeah.
especially taxes and stuff. But that's the model. I mean, that's just something. It's simplified. It's something for at least to begin with, because you can make that more complex. But it's just really fun to see CSOs get that revenue that God's pouring in. He sees you're being a good steward of it. You're planning it this way. You've got it all organized, and so that way in your brain, you're not full of FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt as you're moving through. I mean, you're really doing this the right way. The more that God can trust that and sees you're doing it, the more He's pouring into it.
Mm.
So
And
that's
where could we download this model again?
chiefstewardofficer.com. Yeah, you'll see the flow business model on there. You can click it, download it. It's a PDF that you can print, share with your friends. And then just let us know how it's going. But that's it for this podcast, Brad. Just wanted to address that and have people consider using that model for their own business.
I've enjoyed it. Valuable stuff. Thank you again, Mike. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Brad. See you, man.
Talk to you soon.